Do you have a fear of intimacy? That is the question that we're going to answer in today's video. I'm going to give you 6 or 7, I think, whichever one, 6 or 7 potential signs that you have a fear of intimacy. I'm going to talk a little bit about this problem, about how it affects your life, how it negatively impacts your life, how it negatively impacted my life, and I'm going to tell you how to overcome it toward the end of the video. So let's talk a little bit about fear of intimacy. Fear of intimacy is when you fear people getting too close to you. You fear, fundamentally, that if people get too close, they're going to find something out about you. They're going to find out how broken you really are. The core of this issue, it comes down to toxic shame. It comes down to this toxic self-image you have about yourself. And where did this come from? God knows. Probably some form of trauma, probably some past experience that communicated to you in the moment that you are different to everyone else in a very, very negative way. Bad you. You're very bad. Bad, bad, bad. It's not true, obviously, but that's what was communicated to you in some way. Fear of intimacy also might be related to a decision you've made at some point that close relationships will ultimately result in pain, and you can't handle that pain. It's going to be too much for you to handle, so rather than deal with it, rather than risk love, rather than risk closeness and vulnerability with people and intimacy, you'd rather just sabotage the situation. You'd rather keep everyone at arm's length because that gives you a sense of control. Now, to give you an example from my own life, there were 2 occasions in my life in the past that created this fear of intimacy within me that I've now spent years resolving. The first one was when I was in school. I was bullied by my head mistress, basically. My head mistress, many occasions over the course of, I think, 3 years, communicated to me that I am fundamentally broken, there's something wrong with me, I'm a disappointment to absolutely everybody. The other kids can get it easily, the other kids are gifted, the other kids are great, but for some reason there's just me, little Ollie, who is just what she called a grotty little child. And yeah, I internalized that. I believed that I'm wrong, I'm broken, and that at some point if someone finds that out about me, the whole class, or in this case the whole world, will laugh at me, will embarrass me, or I'll be publicly humiliated in some way. The second thing is when I was 14, my mother sadly passed away. Now, when she died, that communicated to me that close, intimate relationships mean pain, they mean suffering, they mean something to avoid, deep emotional wounds. So rather than actually put myself through that and risk experiencing it again, it's easier to just keep people at arm's length. The problem with this, though, is this leads to deeply unfulfilling relationships. It leads to relationships that are skin deep. They never truly fulfill you because you're never actually fully being yourself. So now into these signs. Here are a bunch of signs that you have a fear of intimacy. Number 1 is you have a history of unstable relationships that are not long-term. You struggle committing to a woman. You struggle with long-term dating in general. It's just much easier for you to have a bunch of short-term flings. That's if you actually engage in relationships at all. Maybe you withdraw from them completely. Okay, that's another point. I'm getting ahead of myself. The second thing is sabotage. You sabotage relationships, you push people away. Again, this is that coping mechanism to avoid them getting too close. You're actually in control, so you think, when you sabotage a relationship and reject everybody before they have a chance to get close to you, and then potentially reject you, blindside you out of nowhere, basically. The third thing is anxiety. You have anxiety around women, you have anxiety socially, because you have to constantly control rather than let go and let an interaction be what it is. You have to constantly control the situation, and that creates a lot of anxiety. Usually I love dogs, but not right now. The fourth thing is social isolation and avoidance. Because of said anxiety, because on some level you believe that close, intimate relationships are danger, right? Fundamentally a threat, you avoid them altogether. You might lean naturally towards socially isolating activities, which in itself is not necessarily a bad thing, like video gaming or whatever, but the point is the intention behind it. Underneath your engagement in these hobbies and interests is actually fear, more than anything else. Number 5 is trust issues. In the form of a bunch of beliefs about people, about women, about yourself, you distrust other people, essentially. When I work with a guy on this problem, we have an inventory of their beliefs. That's one of the things that we do, is we figure out what they actually believe about people, about women, etc. And most of the time if a person's got fear of rejection, if a man's got fear of rejection, he often has a lot of beliefs that he attaches to, such as other people can't be trusted, women can't be trusted, women are just going to leave me, they're going to abandon me, women are always looking for the next best thing, women are always looking for a guy with more money, and a bunch of beliefs like this, right? And they attach to them. And the problem with this is it creates this self-fulfilling prophecy where you believe something, you look for evidence for it, and by looking for evidence for it, you actually, in some sort of weird way, create it in reality, and then the cycle continues, and it's a downward cycle. And the last thing, number 6, is that you get bored quickly in your intimate relationships with women. This is a problem when it comes to, if you get into dating advice, if you get into like the pickup artist game and all that other stuff, you actually get really, really good, potentially, at seducing women. Now, if there is a fear, a deep fear, a core inadequacy, and a fear of rejection, and a fear of intimacy that lies at the base of this, when you get really, really good at this stuff, without actually paying attention to the underlying causes and being more emotionally intelligent about it, you perpetuate this addictive cycle. This is these pickup artists that have been doing it for 20 years and they've still not snapped out of it yet. They're still just chasing the next best thing. They're chasing the next hot girl, right? And this comes from a core inadequacy, a core fear of intimacy. So those are the signs that you have a fear of intimacy. How do you resolve this? Well, bloody hell, this is a big topic, right? So I'm not going to be able to, without boring the arse off you, I'm not going to be able to just talk about it in this video because it'll be another 20 minutes, right? But one thing I will say is, like any fear, you have to become aware of it and you have to make the decision to consciously move towards it. For example, about 3 years ago, I started going to Tantra and intimacy workshops and events and like day workshops and stuff where we learn Tantra. We learn, we do intimacy practices and different exercises and stuff like that with complete strangers in a big group of maybe 30 people. And one of the things that really helped me with is it helped my subconscious, my inner child, to actually understand that closeness and intimacy can actually be playful. It can actually be enjoyable. It can be enriching and it can be fulfilling. So it's one thing to become aware that you have this problem, but it's another thing to take action and actually get it challenged in reality. Check out this video, which talks about why you feel like you are not good enough. It talks about that deep toxic shame, that core inadequacy feeling. It talks about that in depth. So check that video out. And as always, if you want to sort out your dating life once and for all, book a free 30-minute call with me where we're going to go through how you can do just that. Take care until next time, guys. Peace.